Welcome into this Sunday night edition of the Longhorn Livestream. Thanks to everybody. Tell us where you're checking in from. I see Hillsboro, Texas. My name is Jerry Hamilton, joined by Rod Babers. Bobby Burton on the way. He called me. He was running down the airport in the airport with his tennis racket, coming back from vacation. His flight was a little delayed. He'll be here in about 10 minutes. Of course, we have a special. One of the guests tonight, one of the all-time greats in college football history, more than a Texas legend in my mind, one of the greats to ever do it in college football. None other than Ricky Williams will join the show coming up here in about 15, 20 minutes. We got a lot to talk about, obviously, before Ricky joins us. And, I mean, I just can't – Rod, I can't wait for that conversation, man, before we get going. This is what Ricky's a guy I've wanted to talk to for a long time and just – pick his brain on a number of things about football, college football, and NFL.
No, I'm giddy about this. I'm not gonna lie. I've gotten the privilege and the honor of speaking to Ricky a couple of times in some radio interviews, but I can't wait to talk to Ricky. He's always fun, always educational. I always learn something new about Ricky, but I always learn something new, period, because normally Ricky's always gonna bring the knowledge. So I love it. I'm gonna ask him about everything from his marijuana line, the Heisman line that he's got, the cannabis line, from to Longhorn football, to his thoughts about the NFL and what's happening at the running back position. Man, I got a ton of questions. Hope we got enough time to get them all in.
I hope so as well. Of course, a lot going on in the 40 acres, which we got a lot to kind of go over right now. We're going to get to hit that like and subscribe button, please. Please, guys, tell your friends about On Texas Football. We're 38,700 almost and growing fast. We'll see y'all at 50,000 and 100,000 down the line as well. Hi, I'm Boo Corrigan. Watch Ricky 30 because of this. That's a great idea. I should have done that as well. I watched a couple things on YouTube, of course. I watched the LHN special on Ricky, but a lot going on in the 40 acres we need to talk about. Texas basketball beat up on arch rival Oklahoma 94-80 yesterday. Tyrese Hunter, inconsistent junior season to say the least. Career high 30 points. Had 7 assists, played a tremendous game Saturday. Texas, Dylan Dessou came back. I mean, it wasn't real positive leaving Waco on him. He played well yesterday. But, look, Texas is right on that 7-8 seed NCAA tournament line. If you win one game against Kansas State, Texas is a 7 seed. Will play 10 seed Kansas State Wednesday night in the Big 12 tournament. If they win that game, it won't do much for your seeding. If you turn, though, and beat number 2 seed Iowa State after that, if you win 2 games in the Big 12 tournament, and one of those is Iowa State, Texas will probably solidify as a 7 seed. Otherwise, I kind of see them staying on the 8 line, but I could be wrong. So we'll see where all that. The bracketology has Texas between an 8 and 9 seed. Baseball took 2 of 3 in Lubbock. So let's just get real. And I love Coach Joey McGuire. Been to Cedar Hill for many years. But ever since he said everything runs through Lubbock, the only thing that's happened in Lubbock is they've had the runs when they play Texas, Rod.
In Lubbock.
Yeah, no, they need some anti-diarrhea medication when they play the Horns. 57-7 on the football field. Texas won the last basketball game up there. Took 2-3, scored 33 runs this weekend.
That game 1 was nasty. What was that, 22-8 or something like that?
22-8. Then look, that was a big one. Then, of course, Rod, you were at South by Southwest, had a chance to interview Cameron Williams, the next starting right tackle for the Texas Longhorns. So before we take any questions, I kind of want to get kind of your takeaways from that and kind of tell people kind of the event you were at and a little bit about Cam Williams that you took away.
Yeah, man, I got a chance to actually MC it was actually an eating contest at an NIL social media South by Southwest event. It was really fun. Shout out to Brand Innovators. They're the ones who put it on. It was at Lambert's. It was great. The eating contest was between Nana Bodie Owusu, the defensive end from A&M, and Cam Williams, the offensive lineman from Texas. So I got a chance to get to know both those guys. By the way, the Aggie won. So, but only reason he won is because Cam ate a snack before the eating contest. They were eating sliders, little brisket sliders for the contest. He decided that he wanted to eat beforehand. He said he was too hungry. He couldn't wait the hour before the contest. So he did eat beforehand. I think that's the only reason he lost. But anyway, it was a great event.
Williams has obviously never seen an interview with Joey the hot dog eater. You don't eat before the contest, okay?
He ate before the contest. He tried to dip it in the water anyway, but he did lose. But this guy's huge, man. I gotta tell you, you don't realize how big of a human being Cam Williams is. I know he looks big on TV. He's bigger than that. I mean, I'm not even like he made Bodie Owusu look small. I mean, I got a picture. He made him look small. So he's a huge human being. He did say they were off. I mean, they're off for spring break now, so no workouts, no anything. They're gonna hit spring hard once they come back. And did talk to him about the offensive line, man, and he seems to think that they're gonna be one of the best in the country, if not the best in the country. They got that kind of potential. So he looked big, he looked great. He said he felt real good coming out of the workouts, and he was looking forward to spring. So Cam Williams, man, I think there are big expectations for the young man, and there should be.
Shout out to Longhorn Football Edits. They're in the chat. They made an excellent, awesome edit of Ricky Williams that Blake Monroe and myself have used on social media to let Texas fans know that Ricky's going to be joining us. I've seen some comments already. Ski Break, I was in the opposite end zone when Ricky Williams broke the record, man. That was that was unbelievable. I watched that about 4 or 5 times, not the game, but just the play this weekend. Because I kind of, as time passes, you kind of forget Ricky Brown leveled up with Datwin. Datwin took on Ricky in the hole on that run and got his right arm on Ricky. Not enough because, that's one of the things I want to talk to Ricky about is
arm tackles. No,
68.3% of his yards came after contact as a college running back. That's an amazing number, Rod. People just glanced off of him. There were some hits in the Nebraska game where literally guys just glanced off of him, and you're just like, that guy weighed 270. I mean, that's not what's supposed to happen. So I have so many questions for Ricky. What before Ricky comes on, I want you what are your memories of Ricky?
Oh man, well. Honestly, my memories of Ricky are from that Heisman year. And think about it, guys. I'm a 17-year-old kid.
That's when Mac was making his recruiting pitch.
I'm telling you guys, Ricky turned Texas back into the it school.
Yes.
Texas was not considered an it school before Ricky and the rebel with a cause started running with the football. He had so much flair, and it really did. Even ask my man Sims, he'll tell you the same thing. Like there was this appeal and this attraction to Texas after Ricky kind of took his brand to the next level. He took the Texas brand with him. So I do think he was a big part of turning Texas back into an it school, where it made Texas a cool school again. And listen, cool is collateral in recruiting. It is. Whether you like it or not, it is.
Rod, people make fun of me because I call the cool school. I get in that cool school. I mean, but it's so true in recruiting. I mean, you think about it
matters, man.
Look, Ricky and Mac made Texas a cool school again, right? I mean, I'm here to tell you my opinion. If Ricky had not come back to Texas, I don't know if Rod Babers, Corey Redding, Chris Sims end up at Texas because they wouldn't have had the 9-3 year and a Heisman Trophy winner in Mac's first year. It set the tables. I mean, it's crazy, and Chris Sims will never get enough credit for this. Helping recruit Roy, BJ, Sloan, some of those guys after him, right? All you guys in that class. Peyton Manning didn't win a national title at Tennessee, but you know what? They did the year after he left with a bunch of the guys he helped recruit.
Exactly.
I mean, so a lot of times you don't get to hoist the national championship trophy, but I never want it to be lost how big of a part of it Ricky was with Mac. You guys were, because Corey Redding, you, Rod. I mean, there's a big wins in Houston in recruiting, and A&M had owned Houston in recruiting under Arson Slocum.
Yeah.
So Tim Brewster and Mac Brown came in and started to change that, but I think it would have been a much steeper climb had Ricky gone pro and not come back a senior year.
There is no question. I mean, it really did. It put a new spin on the brand of Texas football. Texas football, there's an argument today that the brand had gotten stale, before Ricky. Like what, I mean, in terms of the star appeal, the celebrity appeal, Texas has that again. I mean, just straight think about it. You got your celebrity quarterback in Arch Manning. You know what I mean? There's this star appeal, this celebrity appeal to Texas again. And I think that matters. I mean, when Texas gets Chris Sims, and then you're able to get Roy Williams and BJ Johnson, Sloan Thomas, and get those 3 5-star receivers. There's a momentum that happens in recruiting, and you know it, Jerry. And a big part of that momentum is the first big recruit that Matt got was keeping Ricky. That was his number. That was his top recruiting job, maybe of all time. Because when he kept Ricky, it got the momentum started for everything else at Texas football.
No doubt. We're going to take a few questions here before Bobby Burton joins us and then Ricky Williams joins us. Ekim, Jerry, 2.5 over under 2.5 receivers from Texas in the 2025 class. I missed that point. I'm going to go under on that. I think it'll be 2, and I think there'll be 1 out of state for 3 wide receivers in the class. No follow up on who, make your picks. I can't do that yet. These recruitments haven't got real quite yet, but Texas has, Jamie French out of Jacksonville Mandarin. And Rod, if you hadn't watched him, when we start getting into some of this stuff, he's in between A.D. Mitchell and C.D. Lamb.
What's the name? Give me the name. I'll watch it.
Jamie French, French.
Okay.
He's in between A.D. Mitchell and C.D. Lamb. His feet aren't on fire like C.D. Lamb, but after the catch, his start is closer to C.D. than it is A.D. So that's how talented Jamie French is. He's coming in June 21st through 23rd for an official visit. We'll also be on campus April 6th. Then obviously Marcus Harris from Mater Dei is coming in from 21st through 23rd. Will also be at the spring game. Those are the 2 main out-of-state receivers. In-state, obviously Texas is going to continue to make a run at DeCorian Moore out of Duncanville, committed to LSU. I think Texas definitely has a fighting chance there. It's one of those 2 schools. Kelshawn Johnson, the speedster out of Hitchcock, they won their 2nd straight 3A state basketball championship over the weekend. So congrats to those 4 D1 football players and that 1 D1 basketball player on that 3A team. They pretty much bully ball guys with quickness and athleticism, but they can really play. They could shoot the ball well too. But then, you have some other guys. Khalik Lockett's coming in on the 21st through 23rd. Rod, I was at Saxe 2 weeks ago. He's Khalik Lockett, 6'1.5", 6'2", about 175, 10.5-inch hands.
Damn.
Biggest hands I've ever seen on a 6'1", 6'2" receiver. There's Bobby Burton.
There you go.
Back from the Virginia Slims tennis tournament. What's up, Bobby?
What's up, Bobby?
How y'all doing, guys?
Doing good, man. Excited, brother. Good to have you back.
Got a little sun. I know it doesn't look like it right now, but I actually did. I got some sun this week. So I got out there, watched a little tennis out there. Saw Peyton Stearns, by the way, last night. I don't know if y'all saw that, but she took number 2 lady in the world to the brink of elimination against out at the tennis tournament. She's a former Longhorn national champion, etc. So had a good time all over the place doing what we do, man. Nice. Ready to have Ricky Williams on. I had to get back home. So
I said when Bobby said his flight was delayed, I'd be like, oh, he's going to be so pissed if he misses this show.
Doing it. I can see Bobby in the airport right now doing the Ricky Williams interview.
Hey Rod, I may have sped on the way home.
There you go.
Yeah, that may have happened.
Like everybody else in athletics, guys are getting, you go watch an NBA game in person and it's the athleticism, the length of height, length, athleticism combo. Pro tennis the same way. When I lived down in South Florida, I went to the Miami Open 3 years in a row. And the height, length, and power these guys have nowadays, the game of tennis has changed a lot. And obviously, I'm not an everyday tennis guy like you are, but it's easy to see how tall, long arm, and athletic these guys have gotten in the game.
Yeah, there are guys out there that are good enough to play in other sports. I mean, I don't know that they're as athletic guys, in my opinion, as the rest of they're just not. I'll just put it that way. They can't play corner. They can't play wide receiver. But there are guys that are that athletic. There's a guy right now called Novak Djokovic these guys are like Rod. I will say this, how some guys are like Tom Brady talks about taking care of his body.
Yep.
Right. And doing all that stuff. There's a guy, he goes after a tennis tournament or a tennis match and goes and sits in a hyperbaric chamber to replenish his blood cells. Yeah. It's kind of, they've taken that kind of endurance level of sport to a new level. That's the difference between.
Hey, Bobby, Bobby, before you joined us, Rod and I were talking, and we're kind of talking our thoughts on Ricky. Before Ricky comes in, what are your thoughts on Ricky, the football player?
Oh, just a tremendous player. I mean, first saw him. Funny story, Rod. You'll enjoy this too. First saw him in high school on a VHS tape that was sent to me.
Wow. He
literally lined up in high school 1 yard behind the quarterback. It was this odd offense I'd never seen before. I mean, it wasn't a wing T. It was just, he literally was a fullback with no tailback.
Wow.
He literally like, and so it was so hard to kind of evaluate him because he just got the ball like he was running he was a running quarterback. Right? He was lined up we'll ask him about it. But
wow.
I'll go back to this. This was back when coaches didn't look back in the 90s and 2000s. It was hard for coaches to be called out on their BS because there was no internet. So they would just tell you everybody they were recruiting were awesome, right? And so everybody's the next, this, that, or the other thing. Well, I watched him, and it was really, really easy to see that he's a different level dude. There's a guy that used to do a best in the West ranking with the Long Beach Press Telegram. Did it for years, decades, and it was kind of like the Dallas Times Herald where they did a blue chip list.
Mm-hmm.
And the best of the West was interesting in that they polled all 10 recruiting coordinators from the Pac, what was then the Pac-10 every year. Ricky Williams he was the only one that got a perfect 10 out of every player in the state of California and on the West Coast out of 4 years in a row.
Wow.
And so, a lot of them had 8s and 9s and stuff like that was their best score on a yearly basis. Ricky Williams for 4 years 4 years was the only one that got a 10 out of that. He was a bad dude in high school. His recruitment was outstanding. A guy named Steve Bernstein, defensive back coach for the University of Texas, not only recruited Ricky. Y'all got to remember this. One of the reasons why Texas got Ricky Williams is because they got Bryant Westbrook.
Yeah, at
Oceanside, El Camino, which was just down El Camino. Oceanside's where the naval base is there in San Diego area. And so they had hit on a couple guys in that area, Rod, and Bernstein was an old Navy guy, and he recruited that area and recruited. It was very interesting. Wow. But he's a phenomenal player always. He was, even though he was not it was weird how he was utilized at Patrick Henry High School. I mean, just bizarre. He was still just a phenomenal football player.
And we're not comparing guys, but it's interesting. He played linebacker in high school, played running back. There's some similarities with Christian Clark there. We're not comparing them as players because I will never see. I think Bruce Chambers said it best on the Run Ricky Run special on Longhorn Network. When God built the running back, he built Ricky Williams. Ricky Williams had the best running back frame I've ever seen in my life. He just did. But Ricky was one of those guys that played linebacker, played running back, right? I mean, one of those things we kind of liked that he was more than a running back. He's a great running back on the high school level. He was more than a running back.
Hey, guys, we need to say thanks to our sponsor before we get Ricky on here. That's Joe Brown. Joe, special thanks to you. He is our newest sponsor. He is your veteran mortgage professional. Joe has been providing mortgages in Austin, in and around Austin, in the state of Texas for more than 3 decades. How about this? He is, in fact, the mortgage broker for my very first home ever, more than 25 years ago. I appreciate Joe coming along as a sponsor. Joe's also a very proud Navy veteran. We just were talking about that, as well as a devout Longhorn fan. He's up from East Texas, originally grew up, played in a same band as Don Henley back in the day, guys.
Nice.
Yes.
Wow.
Crazy. Give him a call at 512-663-4744. That's 512-663-4744. If you're looking for a mortgage, that's 512-663-4744. Like I said, he's your veteran mortgage professional, been doing this for 30 plus years.
Thank you very much to Joe Brown. I think we have a super chat we need to get to. Let's see. Justin Yarbrough, thank you very much for that super chat. Do y'all think the move to the SEC will see H-back, fullback role like Kyle used in San Francisco? Rod, I'll let you answer that one.
Not for Sark. I don't think you'll get a traditional fullback with Sark's offense. I haven't seen that. Now, maybe Sark would be. I think short yardage backs is something Sark could be pursuing. Right? I mean, you look at there's a lot of discussion about Savion Red and his weight gain, and
maybe in the eating contest.
I didn't want to have, like I said, it's a weight. There's a reason for it, guys. So whatever the reason, we don't know, but some of the speculation may be because of these short yardage goal line issues Texas had last year, that it would be good to have a back who has that type of skill set, who actually has the ability to convert some of those. But maybe you got to add to frame. You got to add to the frame and add to the armor, if you will. But traditional fullback, I don't see it. His pony package is deadly, I tell you. And Matt LaFleur actually is probably the closest thing to Sark's offense if you actually look at it in terms of that pony package, because he uses a pony package. He uses two tailbacks, but he's from the Shanahan coaching tree. So instead of the fullback, and by the way, guys, Juszczyk is not a traditional fullback. Go look at that guy. I mean, that guy is not a traditional fullback. They line him up in the slide. They line him up. Sometimes he's a tailback. Sometimes they line him up way outside. If you find a guy like that, basically, who is in Texas time, I'm trying to think who is as close as like that. You'd probably have to go to Chris Ogbonnaya. Chris Ogbonnaya is probably the closest thing Texas had to it in a while. To that guy.
That's a great call. That's a great call, Rod. I love that call because I was thinking traditional fullback Ahmad Hall was probably the best.
Yes, that's traditional.
But he's not that. He's more of that. He can play one back. He can also line up a little bit in the front and run a little, not in the slot necessarily, but be a little H-back kind of stuff and do that. I'll tell you, we talk about it, and Savion, you mentioned Savion Red coming in at 240. I had talked to someone last week that told me he was sitting at 230, and then they come out with the roster and he's at 240. I was getting, what are you talking about whenever I said he was at 230? Then they put the roster out and they say 240, and everybody's like, what? I mean, I said he was getting up there. I didn't know he gained 10 pounds in 2 weeks. I mean, we'll see if that's what's best for him, right? Yeah. As far as
he's 5'9.5". That's a lot of weight. That's a lot of weight to carry. I mean,
may not be the best weight.
He's built like a tank, though. I mean, but that's
you know what? And maybe that's the plan. Maybe that is some of those pony packages. Maybe you throw Savion Red out there as kind of one of those bigger backs to help you, because Rojo was like that. Rojo and Bijan were perfect in that pony package because Rojo was your power element and Bijan could be your finesse element, and that's ultimately what you'd like. But I think Sark likes that. But traditional fullback, no. But could he explore more progressive, modern fullbacks? He could. Sark's open to a lot of different things, I think.
All right, we got some more questions coming in. We're waiting for Ricky to join us right now. Going to talk a little bit more about it. I heard y'all on the way in today. I was listening to y'all and asking about what are the questions y'all wanted to ask him. What are some of those? I mean, like, I want to ask him, for instance, what has it been like, the decision for you to come back for your senior year?
Yeah.
Because y'all were talking about how that kind of took Texas to another level. Well, remember, I mean, Ricky could have gone pro after his junior year.
No question.
By doing that, he wouldn't have had the record. He'd be an all-time great college running back, but he wouldn't have the Heisman. He wouldn't be, known as one of the greatest college running backs of all time. He'd be just another guy, right? Mm-hmm. Now he may. And so I wonder how he thinks about that 20 years on, right? 25 years on. Kind of interesting just to see what he has to say there.
Yeah, I like that. But go ahead, Rod. No, I'm going to say that it did change the trajectory of Texas football too, right? And we talked about that. That decision, it made Texas kind of the it school again. young teenagers like Rod B started to pay attention to Texas. When before that, I can tell you, I never watched Texas football before Ricky Williams. That wasn't something I was watching Florida State when I could catch a football game on TV. I remember Colorado was more of an it school back then. I took a trip to Colorado. It's amazing, like as a young person, the history and the tradition don't matter as much. And then once I actually got interested in Texas, then I studied DBU. And my dad was like, "Hey, son, you don't know about DBU?" And then we started talking about, Johnny Johnson, and started talking about, Jerry Gray, and then the DBU history of it. But that, as a young person, that didn't concern me as much as, man, Ricky Williams looks really cool running out there with them dreads, and he's awesome, and he's the best player in college football. Like, that's what, was in my conscience as a 17, 18-year-old kid.
Hey, Rod, Archmania has a question. As long as I've known you, I've never asked you this question. What was the hardest hit you witnessed or took part of on the field?
Wow,
is there
that's good.
Player hit?
That is interesting. That's good. Man, it might have been Nathan Vasher. It was Nasty Nate lit somebody up. Oh man, I can't remember. It was a special teams play too. Okay. And I want to say it might have been against Texas Tech. Oh, I gotta think about this because now my CTE may be kicking in. No, sir. It was Nasty Nate on a play, and I can't remember right now. It's hard for me to remember because I can remember it was him, and it was a special teams play. I will go find it for you because I know it was Nasty Nate. Though Nathan Vasher was one of the most ferocious hitters I've ever been around. He really was. Like that dude.
We're just saying something for his size too, Rod. Right? I mean,
yeah, man. He brought his hips in it. It was. I mean, Longhorn fans. When I'm not telling you something you didn't know, but as a player, he had so much momentum because he usually was able to dial it up with the right angle. And man, when Nasty Nate when he just loaded up on you, it was hellacious. So it was nasty. It was Nathan Vasher. I gotta go look it up exactly. Hell, Bobby might remember it honestly. But
Carlos Francis?
Yes, it was a Tech, right?
It was in Austin, though.
It was Tech
in Austin. Yeah, it was in Austin, and he.
Oh man,
he took him. I mean, he didn't return to the game. I don't think.
No. Yeah.
And what was worried about Mike Leach? Remember this, Rod? It was a play where Mike Leach tried to run a fake punt. Yes. By throwing a deep ball. Okay. So he's going to try to get a pass interference type penalty down the field on the corner. And I tell you what, Nathan Vasher saw it the whole time and dottoed the guy. I mean,
he would have got taken out of the game. They would have kicked him out of the game these days.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, suspended. Boom.
Hey, Rod, I wanted to ask you this too before Ricky gets here. So you spent some time with Cameron Williams Friday, but that made me think about this. What were your initial thoughts the first time you saw Leonard Davis?
Oh man, the thing about Leonard Davis, guys, he lived in the dorms, right? And there's no way the bed that I slept in that Leonard slept in. So I'm sure they had a special bed they brought in for Big Len in the dorms. Man, it was Big Len was easily the biggest and the strongest human being that I ever played with by far. I mean, and talk about hands. I got to go look up and see what his hand size was. Big Len's hands was something out of a circus. I mean, it really was. Like, it was cartoonish with Big Leonard's hands, how big they were. Yeah, Big Leonard is still to this day, man. I don't say Cam's
bigger, but Leonard didn't look fat ever, right?
Yeah, Leonard was just built like that thing from the Fantastic Four, man. He was just like that. You know what I mean? You see that's what Big Leonard reminded me of, man. And he was just powerful. Like Big Leonard was just a powerful human being, period. So you're right about that. Big Len is easily, but we had some big humans on the team, and Big Sean. We were talking about him this weekend. I hung out with Quandre and Derek Johnson and those guys, third and Longhorn with my man Jeremy Hills and Fozzie Whitaker, Alex Okafor. But me and DJ would talk because, Quandre was Quinn Jammer's little brother, for those who don't know. So Quandre has been around Texas football since he was like 7, 8 years old. Like, he'd been running around locker rooms, kicking it at Texas. Speaking of a hard hitter, that guy he knocked out Patrick Mahomes. Come on now. Some hard hitters. But we were talking about Big Sean Rogers and how big. People don't realize how massive that dude was. We had big dudes back then. Mike Williams. We had big humans too, man. It ain't Sark's big human thing ain't new. All right, it ain't new, man. Texas was stockpiling big humans a long time ago.
Yep. I mean that's the whole thing is the Dockeries as well. I mean, there was 3-4 guys, 335, 340 plus on that offensive line at one time. And, a lot of people talk about how offensive line recruiting kind of fell off late in Mac's tenure, but early, and Leonard was already there, but early in his tenure, Bobby, I mean, that Mac, he brought in some big time guys that were then followed through and were highly recruited players on the offensive line. All the guys that were supposed to be hits, they pretty much hit.
Yeah, no, they had a guy named Tim Nunez was the offensive line coach at that time. I don't know if do you remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Was he already gone? Okay.
I'm
he recruited very, very well, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was people thought the coaching was poor because they didn't have the dominating offensive linemen, et cetera. And I think Mac listened to him a little bit and ended up hiring Mac McWhorter as the tight ends coach. And a year later, McWhorter became the offensive line coach. And from that point on, I really think that was one of the I mean, I'm not trying to put too much on Mac McWhorter here, but when he became the offensive line coach, the talent coming into the program on the offensive line took a dramatic step back. He started wanting to get guys because he came from the Georgia Tech style under Bobby Ross and those guys, and he wanted to build people up from 255 to 285 to 300, right? Instead of taking the Leonard Davises and Mike Williams and those kind of guys.
Big humans.
So he was taking guys that were 265, 275, not bad players, just not the superstar elite guys that we all thought might
Hey, I haven't had a chance to ask y'all any takeaways from the spring roster. Any takeaways there, Bobby? I know you had time to look at it on an airplane for sure. Rod, I don't know, but any main takeaways from that?
I think that one of my things was Savion Red. Obviously, we mentioned that. I think from a physical standpoint, that was probably the one that kind of made everybody's jaw drop. Right. I like Isaiah Bond, last name Bond, having the number 7. I thought that was kind of 007.
Oh, nice. I like that.
That's a smart NIL play if there was something behind that.
Yeah, no, I thought that was good. I don't know that, I feel this is one of those things. We're so close to the program, Jerry and Rod, that I don't know that we get ultra surprised by a lot of things. I'm not surprised by, and they didn't really say safety versus corner on some guys like we've been talking about. This guy's playing Jelani McDonald's at safety, Warren Roberson's at corner. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. 6'7", 372. They're talking about. I guess they're talking about Cam Williams there, but
Sadir Mitchell.
Sadir Mitchell was over 370, right?
Yeah,
that's huge.
That's a typo.
That wasn't a typo. And yeah, we talked about that. I mean, we said he's looking better. He does look better than last year. Yeah. Still doesn't look great. You're wanting him to accelerate his timetable, and right now his timetable is a little bit different than everybody else's.
Oh, 6'7", 372. Somebody was referring to Connor Stroh, correct. And look, Connor Stroh, pound for pound, maybe the strongest guy in the program. So it's for him, it's not a bad 372. He's a very large human being. I mean, at the end of the day, ideally, I think when, these guys are that weight right now, but if they start an August practice tomorrow, Rod, they drop down to 10 pounds. So right there, 360 to 365. That's Zach Swanson, finally over 280 pounds. Somebody brought that up. I thought that was interesting that he's finally over 280 pounds. I will tell you that it hasn't been a question of if Zach Swanson can play. The question has been, can he get big enough? Because he has a tremendous motor on him, and that has impressed people. It's just, is he going to get over 290 pounds where he can play? The other one, Dre Bledsoe, 293 listed at Vernon Burton over 300. So, that those guys, getting big enough, right? Dre Bledsoe, he had the setback with the hernia midway through spring practice when he was an early enrollee. That set him back a little bit. It's taken him a while to get there physically, but now over 290 pounds, he's getting that in that area code of where he needs to be. Ryan Wingo, 208 pounds on his. I mean, that's 208.
Yeah, it's a big receiver right there. Maybe I'd use that guy in the red zone situations. AD Mitchell was kind of that guy for Texas. All the receivers now have a very similar frame, very similar build, except for Ryan Wingo. Parker Livingstone's a big guy too. We don't know how much he's going to see the field, but they don't really have, Sark doesn't have a lot of big receivers. Right. Ryan Wingo is among the bigger of those guys and definitely one of the more talented of those guys.
Guys, we're waiting on Ricky Williams right now, trying to find out what's going on there, trying to get him in here. Appreciate him for being part of the show.
We got
agreeing to come on. Now we got to wait for him to actually show. So that's what we're waiting on here right now. Rod and Jerry, anything other than that? I saw Texas beating up on Texas Tech again this weekend. Baseball team, though, not necessarily having the weekend they want to have.
No, but they won two. Texas won 2 of 3, so they won their last series in Lubbock ever. If you listen to Chris Del Conte, and no, Texas isn't playing in the Big 12 teams moving forward. Texas basketball, convincing win over Oklahoma. The only bad thing that came out of the win over Oklahoma, it wasn't actually that game. It was that UCF won at TCU later that Saturday, which pushed Texas to the 7 seed. Texas was sitting on the 8-9 seed, and they were going to play Oklahoma again. And that's a great matchup for Texas. 2 double-digit wins over OU this year. Oklahoma just can't score enough to keep up with Texas. And then Soares, their leading scorer, has a sore ankle. He rolled his ankle. Soares is hurting at the end of that game. And I don't know if he'd been able to play on Wednesday. So TCU gags at home against UCF. And Texas moves to the 7 seed. So now they play 10 seed Kansas State, who actually played pretty well and beat Iowa State at home. So Texas is actually probably a tougher first round game in the Big 12 tournament. And win or lose, I don't think it impacts seeding, whether they're 8 or 7. Jerry Palm has them at 9. I don't agree with that. I think they're an 8, borderline and on 7, but probably an 8 seed. But that wouldn't impact them if they win or lose that game, in my opinion. Now, if they win that game and then beat 2 seed Iowa State, could Texas bump up a seed? I could see that. But Texas is, I'll tell you, I've been saying it. A lot of people exited the doors after the 4 blowout losses, but Texas scored 80-plus points 4 games in a row. Offensively, they're really playing well right now. They can score 75-plus points on a neutral court in talent-neutralized situations. If Asmus and Disu have a couple of good games, I mean, you don't want to be on that 8-9 seed line for sure, because there's some bad matchups. You don't want to play Rick Barnes' team this year. Obviously you wouldn't play Houston, so you'd miss one of the 1 seeds. And you don't want to play UConn. You don't want to be in that bracket. So, Purdue, I mean, I don't think they're great, but the point guard's a lot better this year. It's not, and doesn't have anything to do with the ED. The point guard's better this year, but you want to get off that 8 seed line, but they are playing really well offensively. They can score the basketball.
Jerry, is that how fortunate were they that it was just a D sprain or whatever you want to call it with Dylan Disu? Because if they didn't have him,
it's over.
This season was toast.
Yeah, no, I think if one of those things is, and we said this on the Sunday night live stream. Now, there weren't a lot of high hopes coming out of Waco on that, by the way. But no matter what was said publicly, but he's been injured so much, it's the scare him factor, I think, is part of it, right? I mean, because he literally couldn't put pressure on his knee, and they helped him off the court. Okay, so that's one of those situations where he's been through this so much in his career now that I think it scares him part of it about it as well. But yeah, look, if he had been out for the year, I think they'd have lost to OU and lost in the first round of the Big 12 tournament. I think that's what would have happened. They have to have Asmus and Disu, and then they have to have a third guy play well off of those 2. Then offensively, they can beat a couple of people. You need to get off that 8-9 seed line. But if they happen to be a 7 seed, they could win a couple of games in the tournament. They're good enough on offense to get it done.
Guards got to play well, though. That's the key.
Yes. Yeah.
Guards got to play well for Texas. The guards play well. Texas hard to beat.
Always in the tournament, Rod. Just like you're saying, always in the tournament.
Yeah, man.
Always the guard play.
Yep, them two. If Tyrese Hunter's that aggressive and Asmus is the bucket and he's, efficient and effective and they get a fast start, Texas can be a problem. I agree with that.
Hey, Rob, what did you think of the any issues that you saw with the roster when it came out? Anything that you said, oh, wow, wait a minute, I need to take a relook at that?
No, Savion Red was really the only thing that stood out to me, and I was like, "Whoa, that's interesting, man." From a guy who had a role last year, right? He had a role already. Some of the other guys, you don't know what their role is going to be because you hadn't really seen Connor Stroll, you hadn't seen Sadir Mitchell. You don't really know how they're planning on using these guys. But Savion Red had a role already, and given it was kind of the red cat, but at least it was a role. So now it's interesting that he gains that much weight. That is not just because he's being irresponsible and having a lot of fun and dining at the dining hall or whatever it may be. Those are the strength and conditioning coaches giving him a plan. That plan usually reflected about what the coaches and the staff vision for him is. And now it's like, man, what's the vision for him? And yeah, I wonder what that is. It's going to be really interesting. And we know they did have an issue with short yardage and goal line situations last year. So connecting the dots, which a lot of Longhorn fans will do because they're smart football fans, it does seem like, okay, he would do that because he's going to have a role, and maybe his role is going to be as a short yardage guy, not just in the red cat anymore, maybe in a more traditional sense, but as a guy who's now packed on the armor and the pounds, or maybe as the person in the chat just brought up earlier, maybe Sark is exploring some modern fullback, right? We talked about that early in the show. Maybe he is exploring a kind of new fullback in his pony package. That could be possible too. He loves the Shanahan coaching tree. Had my man Kyle Shanahan back in, who has the most modern fullback you can in the Kyle Juszczyk. Maybe he's looking for his own Kyle Juszczyk. I have no idea. But it's fun to speculate. That's the best part of it. Yeah, and that's what the roster is all about, right? Rosters, we're just speculating about what these guys' roles could be and why they transform their bodies and who transform their bodies for the most part. And the numbers don't matter anymore because these guys, unfortunately, don't care about numbers. It used to be a big deal, like, oh, what's this guy's number? We know the numbers could change next season. That's just the way. Guys don't have the same dedication and commitment to the number like I did back in my day.
Yeah, I think my other one was Kendrick Blackshire, 261 pounds. That just always catches your attention, right?
That's big, yeah.
I mean, look, Alabama wanted jumbo humans all over the place. They were after the large humans as well. Kendrick Blackshire, I don't think he'll play at 260 pounds, right, in his role as an inside linebacker. I think his role will be in the Michigan games, the Georgia games, Kentucky, those teams who are going to try to attack Texas downhill a little bit with that run game, that power run game. But I don't necessarily think he'll be playing at 260 pounds. But it was interesting to see him listed at 260 pounds, Bobby.
Yeah, look, I think he's a downhill linebacker that's supposed to be a run stopper. I don't know that he was ever recruited to start at Texas.
Yeah,
I just want to. I mean, people say, "Oh, he's going to be." I think he's a short yardage, one trick. I mean, he didn't start at Alabama. Right. And Texas, I thought was better than Alabama a year ago. Their run defense was better than Alabama a year ago, too, not just overall. And so I felt like of all the takes that Texas had in the transfer portal, Kendrick Blackshire was the most interesting one to me because other than perhaps helping the depth of the linebacker room, I didn't see a path for him to be a starter at Texas. Interesting addition, but I think more of a David Benda backup. Another in case something happens to an Anthony Hill, and you have another older guy in the room. I see Rod shaking his head, kind of saying the same thing. He's not a necessarily day one starter, whereas everybody else they took in the portal, you can look at, okay, you definitely have a role from day one.
Great point.
And so we'll see how that all plays out. But 261, he's not going to. He is what he is. He's a run fill linebacker. We'll see if he actually gets there.
Yeah. And by the way, with people talking about Quinn and his weight gain, I was told he'll be about 210 by the start of the season, and that's a good weight he's adding again. Like strip down the bad weight. Obviously, lots been made of nutrition with him. Strip down the bad weight that he had. He played about 195 last year. The goal is to be 210 by the start of the season. And it's a good 210. It's behind the neck, it's strength and that frame. And I think that's going to be important, guys, for how he looks, because he throws at the Longhorns Pro Day here coming up in 10 days.
I'm going to say it's March 20th, Jerry. Hey, guys, I want to ask you all this. What do y'all think about this topic that somehow Quinn was a limiting factor of the offense this year?
It came from the combine. It was a combine narrative. I remember exactly.
I completely freaking agree. And
it happened right. Yes. It was right after the 40-yard. I saw it forming on social media. I was scrolling, watching Longhorn fans. They worked themselves into this frenzy because they were like, hold up. You mean Xavier Rhodes is the fastest human being ever at the combine, and A.D. Mitchell's the third fastest receiver at the combine in one of the deepest receiver drafts in NFL history? Why didn't we score more touchdowns? And it's so much more nuanced than that. Longhorn fans, and why couldn't we complete the deep ball? Why can we? They're the fastest wide receivers in college football. Why couldn't we complete the deep ball? And then all of that came back to it must have been Quinn. Quinn's the reason we couldn't complete the deep ball. Quinn's the reason we didn't score more points. Quinn's the reason our red zone offense was so bad. And then it's like Quinn. So Quinn actually was a loser after the it was strange. I don't know how it happened, but Quinn became a loser of the NFL combine. He wasn't even there.
He didn't throw a single ball.
He wasn't even there. He wasn't even there, but he ended up being a loser because Longhorn fans worked themselves into a frenzy talking about what held us back. We should have won a national title, and it was Quinn's fault that we couldn't maximize our receivers more and score more points. I watched it. It's ridiculous, but I saw it happen.
I got news for everybody. Texas wasn't beating Michigan anyways last year. It wasn't
very doubtful.
Not with that red zone offense.
No, it wasn't going to happen. Michigan's offensive line would have negated Texas' strength. And if you couldn't get the Michael Penix, what are you going to do against Michigan? Not what Texas was not beating Michigan last year. In fact, Jim Harbaugh told people he was going to beat the crap out of him if he played Texas. He thought that was actually the easiest matchup he had of the 4 teams in the playoff. Whether he's wrong or right, that's what he said. I know, Bob. I know people don't like to hear it, but it is what it is.
Well, look, they're going to have 13 or 14 draft picks. They're pretty good ball.
Offensive lineman, a quarterback, running, all of it.
I want to say this though, old Jim Harbaugh likes to stick in the mud. He almost got beat by Alabama because he plays. I mean, he and Nick Saban had the same issue. They're so pro-oriented that they would lose games or play tight games that should have never been tight. And Nick Saban played that way until he started having offense coordinators like Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
Do y'all not remember him winning 24-21 in games that he shouldn't have? He did that with Tommy Rees this year against Arkansas. I mean, not that he had this, unbelievable offense this year or anything, but my point being is a lot of what those guys do that come from the pro ball, they're playing those one possession games and about squeezing it out. Bill O'Brien did that while at Penn State. They all think that they've got to control every piece of it, and then they don't look around and say, well, man, I can just out athlete everybody in college football if I have the horses.
Yeah,
right. That's one of the problems that going after a pro coach can be a real problem. Pete Carroll defied that, by the way. He was the guy that came in and said, no, we're just going to blow people out, and did. And that actually led to more people hiring pro coaches to coach in college.
Yeah. I know I'm getting some in the chat for saying Michigan would have beat Texas. I would have picked Michigan to beat Texas, guys. I think Michigan was the best team in the country last year, and they would have won the game.
Well, they were the best team. Yeah, you don't have to take any kind of grief over it. I mean, the reality of it is 4 teams played and Michigan was the best team. The thing that I would get at though, that I would take I don't know that Michigan, after that the center got injured, I don't know that they had a great offensive lineman. They had a good offensive line
for sure,
but I don't know that they had a first round offensive lineman, Jerry.
No.
And so that I don't think they would have been able to run the ball as effectively as you think they could have. I think that if Texas would have been playing 7 yards off at corner, though, that would have caused some issues, because then 3rd and 6 is an easy mix for them. So that look, Texas had some weaknesses on defense last year. They had some weaknesses on offense. Rod brought up the red zone defense or red zone offense.
Yeah.
Look, Texas had plenty of chances against Washington.
Yeah.
They really did. They couldn't stop them enough, and they couldn't score in the red zone. And then I got the fumble.
Yep.
So it's exactly. It's not when things like that come home to roost in big games, typically, right?
Yep.
When the level gets even. Look, Washington, though, I will say this: Washington's extremely talented team. By the way,
look at the combine. Yeah, they got a lot of guys there.
There's no people wanting to sit here and say, "Oh well, we should have beat Washington." Their offensive linemen are going to go ahead of anything that Texas has out there, including Christian Jones. So, I mean, their wide receivers still going to go ahead of Xavier and A.D. Mitchell. So, I mean, they got a tight end that's probably going to go even. Rod, they've got guys.
Tight end worked out pretty well. Yeah, no, they got a lot of guys that are going. I think honestly, I believe that offensive coordinator Grubb's been hired by Seattle. I think Seattle's going to try to grab Penix. I think it's almost a perfect fit for him the way it's working out right now. I think we'll see. I mean, you never know with the draft. You never know. Everybody's saying right now, hell, Xavier Worthy's going to Kansas City. He better pray that the mock drafts are right because like 5 of them have him going. 5 of the most notable. I'm talking about Mel Kuypers and Dane Brugers and Jordan Reed, and I'm talking about Lance Zerline. I'm talking about some of the most respected mocks out there have Xavier Worthy going to Kansas City, and that happens. That's a hell of a place to go for Xavier Worthy. Matter of fact, if he goes there, I think he'll be a 1,000-yard receiver within his first contract there with him. First 4 years, he will be. I
think that would be unbelievable. Look, I mean, if you're A.D. Mitchell and Worthy, you want to go late in the first round, right? Because that's where the quarterbacks are. There's a big difference in going 30 and 34 in this draft.
Agreed. Yeah, you're right about it, brother.
30 to 32 versus 34, 35. There's a big difference.
Huge.
All right. So Ricky is saying, I'm sorry. I think or not Ricky, but one of his representatives is saying, I'm so sorry. I think we need to reschedule.
Oh, no.
So just got that text message in from Kevin Gist of his company. So we'll have to apologize, guys, for putting it out there that he was coming on, but that is the way it's going to be. There's nothing that you or I can do about it at this point. So it happens in this business, unfortunately. But want to say that. All right. Hey, Jerry and Rod, the other question that we were talking about there and the amount of talent Texas has and where Xavier Worthy might go in the draft. Looking back at it, we're now a week out from the combine. Who really did themselves the best at the combine? I'm gonna go first, and I think it's Christian Jones. I think if all things even, he's the one guy that went from he may be a 5th or 6th rounder. I think he's got a chance to go in the 3rd, 4th round. Yeah. Everybody else kind of just stuck. Maybe Adonai Mitchell went up a little bit, right, with the 4.3.
I think he was my guy.
But what's that?
He was my guy. I think A.D. Mitchell because, look, he ran a lot faster than people expected. But even before that, the wingspan, I mean, the arm length, the hand size, everything was really good for him before the run. I thought he about maximized the day, Rod. In every way, people looked at him and said, ooh, he checked a lot of boxes.
3rd fastest 40 time, had I believe his broad jump was the longest broad jump among the wide receivers too. You're right about that. There's no doubt. I mean, I think he solidified himself as a first rounder. He was teetering, I believe, before the combine. Now, I don't think there's any doubt that A.D. Mitchell's a first round wide receiver. And he also did it, I believe, at 200. I believe he measured at 208 pounds, somewhere around there. I believe he was pretty. Look at that 4.34. This is the thing people don't realize. I love Xavier Worthy. He's awesome. Set the record. Guys, he's 166 pounds. He's if you look at speed scores, which are different than the actual optimal speed they're running, that combines your height and your weight and a lot of other different measurements in your speed. there are freakier 40s than his 40 because he was 166 pounds. He's floating on air out there. Right? And he's really, really fast. But when you look at a guy like A.D. Mitchell, he actually has a higher speed score overall than Xavier Worthy because of his height, his weight, and wingspan, all of that with the size. And a lot, NFL scouts look at that a lot when it comes to wide receivers.
You know, a guy has a really good day when Steve Smith Jr. goes back and rewatches and does a video on him.
I love Steve Smith, by the way. I love Steve Smith.
Yeah. He's awesome.
You know, hey, he's the one who called Cooper Kupp. I mean, he likes he apparently likes A.D. Mitchell a lot. I don't know if y'all saw that one.
Top 5 receiver in the draft for him now.
Yeah, he says he's top 5. And he was not prior because he said, and he's right, Adonai Mitchell was a body catcher primarily. Used his body too much to catch for his taste, but then went back and watched him and said, well, he's doing it in certain situations. He's not always doing it.
Right. That's kind of what my takeaway was. Like, I don't think A.D. Mitchell is a body catcher. Like Sloan Thomas was a body catcher to me.
He was.
I don't see A.D. Mitchell as a body catcher. A.D., I think, and Steve watched that again. You know, guys like me watch the guys at Texas more, maybe even in high school more, because they don't really matter for Steve Smith till he gets to NFL almost level. But so I think, to Steve's point, the second time you watch him, AD kind of does it sometimes just because he can, but I don't think he's a body catcher by definition. Sloan Thomas, everything, Rod. You went everything body. Everything was body. Yeah. A.D. Mitchell's not like that. And sometimes A.D. Mitchell just won't have the arms totally extended. He'll have them too tight to his body, and that's kind of more of a body catch without being like this body catch, but too tight to his body, but he's still catching the ball with his hands. I think it's just something you're going to see him continue as he plays against better and better competition, play in, play out. He can't do it. I don't think he will do it, guys.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think for A.D. Mitchell, his hand, I will say this drop rate is one of the lowest, if not the lowest, of all the top wide receivers in the draft. So he doesn't drop a lot of passes. And that I think is important too. You're looking at the way he catches the football. But I'm with you. You got to learn how to catch the ball out in front of you. That's a big part of it. You got to be a hands receiver, because as a DB, I love the guys let the ball get to their pads, because I just got to put my hand right in between.
That's right.
I just got to put my hand anywhere close to the body, and I can break it up. The guys catch with their hands. It's always tougher to knock the ball down, because those guys usually have really strong hands. And you got to swipe at the football, and you're likely, as DBs will tell you, they want you to shoot your hands. Don't swipe, because you're likely to miss the football. Shoot your hands, and that's easier to block the football or deflect it when guys let the ball get to their body. If you get it out like here, even when you're shooting, sometimes it's a little tough to reach it when you're coming from behind the receiver, unless you got long arms, which is why the NFL goes back to, they like long arm defenders, guys who can make those plays.
Yes, Schrader, another big week thing for UT this weekend. Scotty Scheffler won the Arnold Palmer Invitational.
Good for him. Hey, Rod, what about you? Who was your, let's take because we all have these instant hot takes, right? And everybody does. Which Longhorn a week out now did themselves the best service in retrospect at the combine? Like, who do you really think, like, hey, this guy kind of showed up and did his thing? I mean, a lot of them did, but which one more so than any other?
Yeah, no, that's interesting, because I think Texas actually kind of won the combine too, if you're asking me. But who increased their draft stock the most? That's tough to say, because Xavier Worthy, running the all-time fastest 40 at the combine, you'd have thought it increased his draft stock as much as anybody, but I don't know if it really did. I think he's still a guy that's teetering on being a first round pick there at the bottom of the first round, which is when most teams have a mock to the Kansas City Chiefs. Outside the box, how about, man, this is good. Outside the box, you could go with a guy like Ryan Watts if you wanted to. I mean, you really could. And the reason I'll say that is because, okay, first of all, let's paint a macro picture here. What's happening to the safety market in the NFL, right? I talked to Quandre Diggs this past weekend, And I was like, Quandre, what's going on with the safety market, man? They've shed $106 million in like 4 days. They're cutting all pros. They ain't trading them. They're cutting them. They're releasing all pros on multiple teams. I ain't gonna call it collusion, but something's going on. And he's like, man, they're resetting the market. It happens. So they do it. They did it with the running back. They'll reset the market every now and then. And I don't know if they're doing it at the same time. Great minds think like they're resetting the safety market. And go look at the safeties they're signing. They're signing cheap. PJ Locke just signed the deal. He just signed a little 2-year deal. Yep. Signing these guys on these short mercenary deals. So with that going on with the safety market, obviously they're looking for cheaper labor at the safety market, even if it's they're cutting all pros as a result of it. Ryan Watts, and I this is a guy that some people thought Texas should have used that safety. His 40-yard dash, it wasn't that impressive, but for a guy his size, I just talked about length. Mel Kiper still to this day says his number one data point in evaluation at any position is length, arm length, wingspan. That's what he's looking for. And he ain't the only NFL analyst at Draft Scout that feels that way. He ran a 4.53 in the 40, which is faster than I thought he would run. But this is what shocked me. He was 6th in the vertical, so he's got some explosion. 2nd in the 3-cone drill. Yep, 4th in the shuttle among cornerbacks.
The L cone's a big one for him.
Huge, Jerry. You know this. I was talking to Jeremy Hills because he actually spoke at South by Southwest. He was speaking about fitness, and he said it's pretty obvious over the last decade plus in the NFL since we've gotten deep analytics, we've gotten next-gen stats. We can analyze these guys in terms of their miles per hour. We got deep dive stats on what drills correlate to NFL success, which ones of them have the best or the best predictors of NFL success. And the 3-cone drill is at the top. It is at the top. The 40 actually is not. No. The 40 is actually down toward the bottom. But Quandre Diggs ran what did Quandre run? Damn near 4.6 or something like that at the combine. Guys going on his 10th year in the NFL, right? Or 9th or 10th year, right? Go look at his 3-cone. 3-cone was pretty damn elite because it's a change of direction sport. But anyway, my point is, this is a guy that's 2nd in the 3-cone among corners at 6'3", legit 6'3". In a time where they've expanded the practice squad, so you actually can take a developmental project now. And with the macro, whatever the hell is happening to the safety position, whether it's an outlier or whether it's becoming the new running back position, it's a recession or depression. We don't know yet. I would say that guy made some money. How about this? 4th in the shuttle among cornerbacks, all right? And his top end speed in the gauntlet drill was the fastest of any corner at the combine.
Do you think, hey, Rod, do you think he's a corner at the next level? Do you think he's
No. But
then I'm going to say this. This is where I would come in. I worry about him and his eyes for the ball. Just going to tell you, he's not a guy and that's what the problem was and why he didn't want to play safety at Ohio State. That's not. I'm worried he's still going to be a corner. He may never be a safety.
The NFL won't give him a choice. You're going to play safety or you out. So does he want to go? Does he want to come sell insurance or whatever it is? You want to play in the league? They gonna say you playing safety or you done. And if you don't start, having the right keys and your eyes in the right place, then you ain't playing safety for long and you're out. So you're right, Bob. No, you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you because I thought Texas should have moved him to safety at 1.2. Michael Griffin said that at LHN. So my point is he's got the short area quickness to do it, and his speed is not a liability at safety. And his coverage skills are not a liability at safety, but his size is such a huge asset. Put him on the practice squad for 1 or 2 years. I'm not saying he's going to get drafted. Maybe he's drafted late, priority free agent. Think about the draft pool is not as deep as it used to be, guys. It is the late. I'm talking about late and middle to late rounds in the draft. This is as weak as it's ever been because the underclassmen are staying in school because of NIL. So you have only 58 underclassmen that decide to declare for this draft. That is half the amount of the average of the last 6 years, guys. It's not. So teams know you're not going to get a lot of talent there, but that's good for Ryan Watts. That's really good. That means, hey, man, I might take a chance on you in the 6th or the 7th round. Or maybe you're a priority free agent, which I think he will be after a team goes back to the film, which these numbers force me to do. Because I thought his short area quickness guys would suck. I was like, oh, that's going to be terrible. There's no way guys change direction really, really, really well. But I was wrong. So I got to go back to the film and go, okay, was eyes in the wrong place? Was hips turned the wrong way? What is it that it's short area quickness? Why didn't that translate to him getting in and out of breaks better against receivers?
To your point, Rod, though, he tested really well in that camp setting in high school. I said that the day before he ran at the combine. He ran a low 4.5 coming out of high school on a laser. So it's like, he's been a good tester for a long time.
Okay.
Hey, by the way, before I know Bobby's got to get to our sponsor, Joe Brown, but I want to say this: the biggest winner was Steve Sarkisian in Texas football out of the combine, by far more than any other player. Players make the money, right? But it's Texas football, Rod. We haven't really talked about this. That was an amazing event for Steve Sarkisian in the Texas program right now. More than any one player, the attention Xavier Worthy got, all the attention Byron Murphy, all the guys got, the Texas social media was blowing up. That was unbelievable for future recruiting at the University of Texas and Steve Sarkisian's vision, which is now becoming a reality.
They're still leaning into it.
Yeah,
the social media team is still leaning into it heavily, and they should.
They should.
To your point, it's like, look, what else you want to do as a recruiting tool? What's a better recruiting tool than that?
Nothing.
We draft, and we get you drafted.
Yep.
And we draft.
That's it.
That's how the world works. All right, hey Jerry, you said that we need to say thank you to our sponsor. And completely agree with that. I want to say thank you to Joe Brown. Joe works with Southside Bank Mortgage. He is really a great guy. He is your veteran mortgage professional. More than 30 years, Joe has been providing mortgages in Austin and around the state of Texas. In fact, he was the very first mortgage broker I ever had for my very first house. That's Joe Brown. More than 25 years ago. Joe's also a proud Navy veteran and a devout Longhorn fan. Give him a call, 512-663-4744. If you're looking for a mortgage, he's got the right professional mindset, as well as he does his work and make sure you get the best rate humanly possible. That's 512-663-4744. Once again, Joe Brown, your veteran mortgage professional. Thanks, Joe, for your sponsorship. Hey, Rod, I need to go back to you, but I want to go back to you. This whole idea of what position is Ryan Watts best at in pro football? Here's one. What's Jahdae Barron's best pro football position?
That is good. That is good, honestly, because I was just talking to a guy this past weekend in Quandre. Quandre comes in as a cornerback, plays nickel at Texas, goes to the NFL as a nickel. They move him back outside to corner, and then he eventually is moved to safety. And then the guy has played every position in the secondary. I asked him where does he think he plays his best football? He said nickel, but he's made all of his plays in the NFL at corner. Guy made his Pro Bowls there. Sorry, at safety. Made his Pro Bowls at safety in the NFL. With Jahdae Barron, I'm not sure about his. I would love to know his top end speed. I would love to know his top end speed for a guy that I would like to put if I want to put him out at corner and put him out on the island. I'd like to know that before I put him out there. At the nickel, though, in the Big 12, the nickel position has changed a little bit, but you got to have great instincts at nickel, and I think his instincts are so great. I think he is a really good, I call him a football investigator. He's really good at diagnosing clues, with the alignment and down distance and taking the formation, the personnel package, and being able to clue in on exactly what the ways the offense is going to try to exploit him. He almost is able to eliminate certain plays, and that's why he jumps certain plays so well. And they used that against him late in the season, by the way. They double moved him and did, a lot of out and ups on him, and that made sense because he's so aggressive. I'm not so sure it isn't safety. I think he's great vision. I think if you open his vision up even more, I think right now he's got great vision. Right? We see that. We see him able to diagnose, and decipher clues and keys really well and jump them really fast. And that's why your wide receiver screens are a moot point against him. I always wonder if you back him up and give him more vision, if he'll become even a more effective player. And this guy says he wants to be a defensive coordinator. So, he's watching a lot of film. And that actually translates to, if he's going to go out to corner, which I think he can play, I'd like to know top end speed. But I think, honestly, moving him to safety, and I remember, Chip Brown wrote a piece about Gary Patterson who said, I think he's a safety. I see him as a safety too. And I think if you back him up, man, I think his vision actually would be of a benefit. I think he actually might make more plays out there with better vision to see the offensive plays actually develop. And be able to see the formation, see the quarterback, and see the quarterback's reads and the 3-step. So I don't know. I think long term I'm gonna go safety. I think long term I'm gonna go safety in the NFL if that's where he's going. But I don't know if they'll play him there. But like I said, once he runs the 40, he runs a 4-4, a low 4-4, mid 4-4. Then it doesn't matter. It's like, man, he can play in the league and run with anybody.
What's interesting, we reported back when he made his decision to return, right? Because he was a guy that could have gone potentially to the NFL. We had reported that he was going to try to work out more at corner than he was safety. We had all thought he might try to work out at safety, but we reported at that point, no, he came back and he wants to give corner a go.
So what the money is.
I don't know if that's it. Jerry, how fast was Jade in high school? I don't know if he had 100 times or he had a combine time from Under Armour. What did he have?
Yeah, let me look that up real quick. I need to look that up. I'm pretty sure he ran low 4.5, but the key is, like, Under Armour camps laser. So if you run 4.5 in Under Armour, you're freaking moving, right? There aren't many guys. Let me look that up real quick to see if I can.
Yeah. No, Rod,
it's interesting though. He can play corner.
You think so?
No, he can play corner. No, like I said, I think he can play any position in the secondary. I've said that they should promote him as a guy that is the most diverse defensive back in college football. I think he has that kind of skill set in terms of where I think he would be most effective. Like I said, I'm not too sure it isn't. Like, even a guy like Quandre, that's why I brought him up. He played every position in secondary. Where did he make his most of his plays, though? Made most of his plays at safety. Even though he said he loves nickel. I said, why you love nickel? He said, man, because I get bored at safety. I'm sitting back there all the time. Most time I'm a center fielder. He said, I'm keying the quarterback. I'm running to try to just eliminate the big plays. So I'm coming to the play after it's already done. He said, I like being nickel because everything happens so fast. And I'm always in on the action. Either I'm blitzing, or I'm a force run defender, or I'm playing man-to-man the slide, or I'm dropping back in the zone. There's always action. So he's just an action junkie. For a guy like Jahdae Barron, like I said, I think more like a Quandre, he may just be better when he sees more of the field, because he is a great football investigator. And to be a great investigator, what do you need? I need clues, more clues. Give me more clues, and I will help you solve the crime and solve the play. And I think that's Jahdae Barron. You see, give him more clues, give him more to digest. So he wants to play corner because corner is cool, all right? And corner is sexy, and corners are drafted high. Safeties aren't drafted high unless they're winning the Thorpe or they're the best safety in college football. That's when you draft them. But as a safety, you're going to get dropped down. He knows that. He wants to play corner, and I get it. Play corner, son, because you can do it. But if they want you to move to safety, they'll do them like Quandre, move them to safety.
Hey, Rod, this is the question then. Is he the most versatile defensive back Texas has had since X? Since who?
PJ Locke is pretty versatile.
Who's that?
PJ Locke was pretty versatile, right? PJ Locke is a versatile guy. PJ Locke played nickel for you, he played safety for you too.
Yep.
He was a versatile guy. Adrian Phillips, I remember Coach Akina telling me he's one of the only guys that played every position in the secondary, knew it all, could play corner, could play strong, play free, could play nickel, play dime, and Quandre. So he's probably the most versatile since. Oh man, I mean, who was later, Quandre or Adrian? Quandre was
PJ was the latest of that group.
PJ was the latest. PJ probably since PJ, because PJ played nickel and played safety for you.
Yeah,
they moved him around a little bit.
We've had some Texas wide receiver recruiting questions. Yes, DK Moore, DeCorian Moore will make an official visit to Texas. We kind of waited for that to come out whenever DK was going to put that Under Armour camp up in Dallas today. He is making an official visit to Texas. He's going to Texas or LSU. Look, he'll visit some other places, but barring the unforeseen. Now, the unforeseen can come home in NIL, but I don't think it will. I think DK Moore will be at Texas or LSU. And I think Texas, the guys they have coming in on official visits at wide receiver, Ski Brick doesn't like it. There's too many of them, but is a tremendous group. I mean, Kelshawn Johnson will run 10-3 one day if he wants to. Khalil Lockett is tremendous body control, like A.D. Mitchell body control at wide receiver, big old 10.5-inch hands. But then, you have a bunch of really talented wideouts coming in. Marcus Harris, obviously, but Jamie French. I was telling Rod, Bobby, I think he's in between A.D. Mitchell and C.D. Lamb for me. He's better after the catch than A.D. Mitchell. He's got more stop-start COD than A.D. Mitchell after the catch, but he's not quite feet on fire like where C.D. Lamb was. So I think Jamie French is a tremendous prospect. So Texas has a number, as they should, of big-time receivers. We had Rick Ambergy asked, Adrian Phillips was the Garland now, by the way, asked what the combine will do for recruiting in 25. I would say 10 years ago, it would have done a little more than it is today. One, NIL just changes recruiting, right? But two, Texas beat Alabama. That did more for them than anything until they made the college football playoff. So last year was just like a complete validation year of, when your program changes, when a new coach is hired, you come in with a vision and you sell your vision. And when does that vision turn to reality? How long does that take? Well, Sark got it done in year 3. So now the vision is the reality. So while I think all of it, the combine, the draft is going to help Texas, that might help them more in 26 than 25. It's just going to continue to help you more down the line in recruiting. But I think the work in this 25 class was done well beforehand when they beat Alabama and they win the Big 12 championship, meaning you go on and have a good season, and then you get in the college football playoff. And then the guys are going to get drafted. You have some national awards and all Big 12 awards, Anthony Hill being freshman of the year. Those things are big to sell in recruiting, right? You're going to come in here and you have a chance to do what Kelvin Banks did, what Anthony Hill just did. Those are big things in recruiting.
I think all of it combines. It builds into a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like a vicious circle, right? I will say you're right about one thing, Jerry. First things first, winning.
Mm-hmm.
That, Rod, you can say what you want about Ricky and those guys being impetus for you to kind of turn around. It's a hell of a lot easier to choose somebody that goes 9-3 than it is 5-7.
I wouldn't be at Texas if they were 5-7. I'll tell you that right now. I wouldn't have been there. Yeah.
That's my point. I mean, you were looking at Florida State and A&M also.
Florida State and A&M. Yeah, Colorado.
My thought process is that you were looking at, people want to go somewhere they can win in Texas. Until last year, it just hadn't happened. Not often enough. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I'm pretty impressed by it. Where they're at right now. Y'all know that.
I'm great very point, happy. Though. Yeah, never thought about that. But at that time, A&M wins the Big 12 title in 98?
Yep.
Right before I get there in 99, Florida State was Florida State. That's what it is.
People forget that's A&M's last title of any type, by the way.
It is, yeah. So, getting back to Jerry's point, though, that's your point too, Bob. Houston, H-Town was an Aggie town. I tell people that all the time. They don't believe it now. When I was coming up, Houston Lamar guys were going to A&M from Houston Lamar. It was an Aggie town. Tim Brewster changed that. Mac changed that. I think VY had a big part of changing it too. When VY was kind of a superstar in the H-Town community.
I'll say this: it was
Corey Redding, of course. Sorry, Corey. Sorry, Redding. Yeah.
Well, it was T.J. Ford and Vince Young back-to-back years.
Yeah, there you go.
I was explaining to somebody. I was at the Beaumont United Clear Falls regional final game in 6A at the Aldine Campbell Center. And I was explaining this a couple of friends that they have sons coming up that are freshmen and sophomores in high school basketball to be Division I players. I was saying, people have no idea that weren't around when TJ Ford and that Willow Ridge team came out, the following they had. Mm-hmm. Like Aldine Campbell Center, packed to the rafters, couldn't get in. Anywhere Willow Ridge went, sold out for 2 straight years. And so when TJ and Vince out of Houston came to Texas in back-to-back years, football and basketball, that was the 2 big. TJ had that type of following. For people that aren't basketball fans, they may not understand it. TJ had a cult following in Houston.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because he was the little undersized guy with a great smile that would bounce the ball off the floor to himself and dunk it and make all sorts of passes you only saw in the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yep, the long shorts.
I mean, and TJ was Allen Iverson quickness now for people that never really got to appreciate his athleticism. He was a total freak. So when both those guys went to Texas in back-to-back years, that was huge in Houston. Huge.
Yep.
Y'all remember a guy? Y'all remember a guy named George Walker, played wide receiver at Texas?
Oh yeah, Westbury.
Yeah.
Oh.
George Walker was the one that told me. I go, so why Texas? What? Because I used to buy tickets to go see Vince Young play in high school.
Yep.
They would go. Yeah. Other teams and players on other teams.
That's right.
Would go watch Vince Young play football in high school. That's respect.
Yeah, I went back and watched him. I remember I was at Texas and went back and watched him like he was. Because Houston Lamar had to play him. We were in the same district back in the day. So it was. I remember Coach Dolan saying, "Man, we got a problem on our hands. This dude is." we ain't got nothing like him, and we didn't. Dude was great, man.
All right, hey, that's good stuff, guys. Good stuff tonight. Sorry that Ricky didn't join us, but we'll get him rescheduled and have some talk with him about some of the stuff that he was able to accomplish in his career. A truly great career for the Longhorns. Jerry, thanks for hosting tonight, by the way, as well. Appreciate you stepping in. I'm back now, and I'm ready to go, rested and ready. I got a little tan, even though you may not be able to see it quite yet. It's still a little
wait, I got an important question, Bobby. I don't care about tennis and your tan. Were they filming one of that Real Housewives there? Did you run across any TV cameras?
There you go.
I ran across a lot of different things. I actually met and talked to Jim Courier, the former guy that's on the Tennis Channel. I have a friend of mine that works for the Tennis Channel that got us up into the box. Talked to him, met with some of those guys, and it was just fun. Had a good time. Had a good time.
Good stuff. There you go.
Yeah. Hey, you will get I will say this. I don't know. The Peyton Stearns, for example, last night. I mean, the set alone took an hour and 10 minutes in the third set.
Damn.
So she's already 2 hours in to a match, and then she's got to go another hour and a half or an hour. Yeah. Man, that is the stamina, and it's so fun to watch athletes up close in person. To me, it's like, Jerry, you love basketball and love going to basketball and sitting close, you can see them. Rod, you used to do the sideline and you played, obviously.
Yeah. Seeing
those guys at a closer gives you a greater appreciation of just what they can do. It doesn't matter what sport. Every single one of them. I mean, Jerry, you follow golf. You see him sit there and that he's got a 300-yard this or that. Well, they're pointing at the tree saying, I'm gonna hit it over the tree and I'm gonna let it lay up a little bit over there. And you're like, I'm just trying to hit the fairway. You know,
right. It's like these guys they're half a fairway. They're right where their eyes take them within a 15-yard landing zone when they're really driving it well. I mean, it's like nothing. But hey, by the way, so I got to throw this one out here because you got to give kids credit where credit's due. So Scott Surratt's son at Carthage, obviously Scott Surratt's going to end up with the most state titles in the history of Texas high school football for a coach. His son is not only has P5 offers in football, but I don't know if y'all are who follows golf here on the chat, but his son at David Tom's facility, he's one of the best sophomore golfers in the country. Jet Surratt recently. He had a 202 ball speed as a sophomore, 202 ball speed, 137 mile an hour club head speed as a sophomore. Unbelievable numbers for a 16-year-old kid. For instance, and he's got work to do. He shot 65 in tournaments a couple times this year already from 7,100 yards. I watched him play 9. It's incredible, but that is a lot better than Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy's, and those guys. The guy's going to keep getting longer and athletic. because guys like this are playing golf. I mean, when you put guys like Jet Surratt with that type of hand-eye coordination and his overall athleticism, now he's probably born to play golf, but that ball speed and club head speed's off the charts for somebody his age. Off the charts.
Wow. Writing that name down.
Hey, write it down, and then think about what he would do inside one of those rage rooms they have nowadays. You can take a baseball bat and like break things inside rage rooms now. Can you imagine
man.
Or rage room golf club going?
Hey, by the way, Ryan Nelson, I agree. North Carolina, Texas in round of 32 would be the best matchup for the Texas Longhorns in the tournament. One, because that is their best matchup, and two, because Texas seemingly owns North Carolina in basketball. How? I don't know, but they do.
Yeah.
If you go back recent years, I mean, Texas is they're on a little bit of a streak against North Carolina.
It's one of those weird things.
Right. Hey guys, thanks for watching tonight. We appreciate you guys. We will be back tomorrow morning with the On Texas Football, Coffee and Football. Very excited about that. Thanks again to our sponsor, Joe Brown. Joe is your veteran mortgage professional. I appreciate him being the new sponsor of On Texas Football, or the very newest sponsor of On Texas Football. For Rod Babers and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Bobby Burton. I'm glad to be back in the saddle here. Hook 'em.